All right. Ready to dive into the world of tax inspectors?
Let's do it.
We're going to unpack these RoleCatcher excerpts you sent over. Seems like you're thinking about this as a career path, huh?
Yeah, it's got me intrigued.
And trust me, it's way more dynamic than just, number crunching all day.
You're telling me, right?
Mm.
It's actually fascinating how much more there is to being a tax inspector than, like, meets the eye.
I know, right? I mean, the guide we've got here, it starts off by, defining the role, the basics, making sure those taxes are calculated correctly and paid on time.
Right.
Sounds pretty straightforward on the surface, right?
You'd think so, yeah.
But then, bam, you're examining financial records, diving deep into tax laws, and, oh yeah, making sure businesses are playing by the rules.
Talk about a learning curve, right? And that's where the need for, meticulous attention to detail comes in.
Oh, absolutely.
The guide really stresses accuracy.
Yeah, and for good reason.
Big time. Even a small slip-up could, snowball into a major issue.
No, totally. The stakes are high, for sure. But here's where it gets really interesting to me. The guide also highlights the importance of, wait for it, people skills.
Oh, tell me about it.
Not exactly what I pictured when I thought tax inspector, did you?
No, not at all.
It's kind of cool though, right?
Yeah. It's not just you, a calculator, and, a giant stack of forms. Think about it. You're constantly interacting with people, all the time.
Right.
Guiding taxpayers through that maze of tax laws.
Yeah.
Collaborating with colleagues, and even dealing with potential fraud alongside, the legal eagles.
Whoa, dealing with potential fraud? Okay, that's a
And
whole other level. I bet that's where those people skills really get put to the test, don't you think?
you are preaching to the choir. It's not always about, crunching numbers. Sometimes it's about, reading people. Imagine uncovering some, international shell corporation funneling millions in untaxed revenue.
Wow.
We're not talking about, rounding errors here.
Okay, see, now that's what I call high stakes. It sounds like this job needs a healthy dose of detective work, too.
Yeah.
You're a detective.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's where those core abilities RoleCatcher lists come in: active listening, effective speaking, even negotiation.
Right.
You're not just finding discrepancies, you're navigating delicate situations, building trust, and diffusing, potentially tense encounters.
Yeah.
It takes a certain kind of person to do that. You know?
Totally. It's like being a financial detective and a diplomat, all in one. Speaking of navigating different aspects, RoleCatcher provides a really detailed breakdown of the career stages, entry-level tax inspector, and then making it to the big leagues as a senior tax inspector.
And it's not just a straight climb either. You know what I mean?
Right.
The real-world examples they include show how diverse this career path can be.
Totally. Look at this entry-level profile. This person in their first year helped uncover a tax evasion scheme. Not exactly filing paperwork and grabbing coffee, are they?
Nope, not at all. It shows that even at the entry level, you're thrown right into the mix, applying that knowledge and, honing those crucial skills from day one. And, as you progress, to a full-fledged tax inspector, like you said, you're not entry level anymore. You step into a role with even more autonomy.
Right.
You're calculating taxes, conducting, thorough examinations,
Oh, yeah.
and potentially even, unearthing those intricate cases of tax fraud.
Whoa.
Talk about a rewarding challenge, right?
Seriously. Yeah, it's like they say, with great power comes great responsibility, right? But no, seriously, it does sound like this stage requires a whole new level of expertise.
Absolutely. And judgment, too.
Yeah.
RoleCatcher highlights a tax inspector who noticed, this tiny discrepancy that ended up exposing this, multi-million-dollar fraud ring.
Oh.
Talk about having a nose for detail.
Oh. Seriously. Wow, that's like a high-stakes game of find the difference. And the impact of that work, preventing millions in lost revenue that could be funding, schools, hospitals, you name it, makes you realize the ripple effect a tax inspector can have, right?
Exactly. And it's not just about, that technical expertise.
Yeah.
The guide also emphasizes, communication and independent work at this level.
Right.
Think about it. You're the point person now.
Right.
You're interacting with taxpayers. You're explaining these, complex regulations.
Yeah.
And you're ensuring everything is, above board.
Right.
You're like a walking, talking embodiment of financial integrity.
Totally. And if we're talking about climbing that ladder to senior tax inspector, that's a whole different vista.
Oh, yeah.
You're leading teams. You're providing expert advice on those head-scratching cases.
Right.
Working, hand in hand with legal authorities. It's like being a financial wizard almost.
Totally. And when you look at, The responsibilities outlined by RoleCatcher, leading audits, developing strategies to combat fraud. It's clear this role demands like a deep understanding of the financial landscape.
Totally. And not just like understanding it, but shaping it. This senior tax inspector profile in RoleCatcher mentions they helped implement a whole new system for detecting fraudulent activity.
Wow.
Like that's next level stuff.
That is inspiring, right? You're not just enforcing the rules, you're like shaping the future of tax compliance.
Right.
And the leadership aspect can't be like overstated enough.
Yeah.
You're mentoring a team, you're setting ethical standards, and you're ensuring like the financial well-being of the entire system.
It's a lot.
It is.
Okay, so you've totally sold me on the impact and like the whole career trajectory. But how does someone actually climb that ladder? Like what does it take to excel as a tax inspector?
Well, RoleCatcher actually provides some like really insightful advice on that front. And it honestly, it boils down to one like key thing. Never stop learning.
Oh, interesting.
They emphasize staying ahead of the curve when it comes to, ever-changing tax laws and regulations.
Right, because those are always changing.
Right, always.
Which, let's face it, in the world of finance, change is the only constant. It's a far cry from those set it and forget it careers, right?
Yeah, tell me about it. It's like
Right.
RoleCatcher even recommends, diving into workshops, seminars, conferences, anything to, keep those knowledge banks overflowing. It's about embracing that, like continuous learning and professional development.
Right, right. Always be learning.
Exactly.
And it's not just about formal education, right?
No, not at all.
Like I imagine reading, industry publications, following like financial blogs.
Oh, yeah?
Even like connecting with other professionals like online would be invaluable.
100%. RoleCatcher highlights the importance of, building a professional network and actively seeking out that knowledge. And speaking of knowledge, do you remember that skills analysis feature we touched on earlier?
Oh, yeah. The one that like breaks down the specific skills needed for like a tax inspector role.
Yeah.
Now, that was seriously impressive.
It's really thorough. You know what I mean? They go beyond like the obvious active listening, critical thinking, reading comprehension, speaking effectively. It's all laid out there. And they connect those skills back to like the actual tasks you'd be doing on the job.
Right.
Makes you realize like the diverse skill set this role really demands.
Totally. Okay, so let's say you've like checked out the skills analysis, you're feeling good, you're confident, you're ready to jump into the job market, but like finding those perfect job openings can feel like searching for a needle in a haystack, you know?
Ugh, tell me about it. It's the worst. But this is where RoleCatcher, like truly, they've gone above and beyond your typical, job board.
Okay.
They've got this feature called RoleCatcher.capture. It's a browser plugin that lets you like save jobs from, any corner of the internet directly into your RoleCatcher account.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
Hold on. So instead of like a million tabs open bouncing between job boards,
Right.
I can manage everything in one place.
Exactly.
That's kind of genius.
It's super handy.
Seriously.
It like streamlines the whole process, and once you've got, those promising job postings, you can organize them, prioritize them, even see how well your CV aligns with the specific skills each employer is looking for.
Talk about taking the guesswork out of job hunting. It's like having like a personal assistant for your career. But let's face it, even with like the perfect CV, dealing with clients is a whole other ballgame.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And the guide mentions tax inspectors often work with people who, well, might not be thrilled about paying their taxes.
Right, exactly. It's true. Not every day is going to be, smooth sailing. Remember those crucial people skills we talked about?
Right.
This is where, like, empathy and understanding come into play.
Right, because it's not always about, catching people out. Sometimes it's about, like, educating them, guiding them, and helping them understand, like, their obligations.
Exactly. You got it. It's about finding that balance between, enforcing the law and providing support.
Right.
Ensuring, like, everyone's playing on a level playing field.
Totally, yeah. It sounds like a role that demands, like, a strong moral compass,
Oh,
After all, you're dealing with people's finances, their livelihoods, their businesses.
Absolutely. And that's something RoleCatcher highlights beautifully in their FAQs. They talk about how, tax inspectors contribute to, like, the fabric of society.
Oh, wow.
Ensuring the tax system, like, hums along.
Right.
Which, in turn, funds those vital, public services we all rely on.
Totally. Whoa, think about it. Every school, every road, every firefighter
I
salary
know, right?
is partially funded by the work you could be doing as a tax inspector.
Exactly.
Talk about like real world impact.
Real world impact, yeah.
It's pretty amazing. Speaking of like ripples, there's one more thing I wanted to touch on.
Okay.
RoleCatcher mentions alternative job titles,
Okay.
specifically tax compliance officer.
Okay.
And it piqued my curiosity. How are those roles similar, like different?
That's a great question. While there's definitely overlap, there's some key distinctions. It's like they're leaving us with a little homework,
Oh, fun.
encouraging us to explore those nuances and discover where our skills might fit best.
I love that. It's all about like expanding your horizons and seeing the bigger picture. Well, we've certainly journeyed through like the ins and outs of being a tax inspector, the skills, the career progression, the impact, and of course, how RoleCatcher can be your secret weapon in navigating this like dynamic field.
It's a career path that requires, a unique blend of analytical thinking, those essential people skills, and a real passion for, making a difference.
Totally. And for anyone out there who loves a good challenge, who thrives on like the details
Oh,
and who wants a career that impacts the world around them.
right.
Well, a career as a tax inspector might just be like the perfect fit.
I think so.
I think so too. And if you're ready to like take that leap, remember RoleCatcher is there every step of the way,
They are.
providing that knowledge, those resources, and like the support you need to succeed.
Absolutely.
Perfect. Well, that wraps up our deep dive into the intricate and like surprisingly exciting world of tax inspectors.
Super interesting.
We hope you found it insightful, engaging, and maybe even a little inspiring.
Yeah.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep asking those big questions,
Okay.
and most importantly, keep diving deep.